Hey there, Mr. Witherow. All right, we are going to start adding and subtracting polynomials. The first thing we have to understand is that it always has to go in standard form. All right, so what I think of standard form is obviously it's the highest exponent first. So you got to find the highest exponent, and that term goes first. I think of it as downhill slide. So you got the highest, so you look at the exponents, so you could say 3, 2, 1, and then always the last one is your constant. All right, so standard form. So 3x to the third plus 2x squared plus x plus 7 or something like that. All right, notice that it's 3, 2, 1, right? And then none. That's what standard form means. Now, for most of us and most of these problems, we don't get too much further than x to the third. All right. Like terms is another big thing that we have to start realizing because we're going to start gathering them up, or combining as they like to say. I like to call it gathering. Like terms talk about having each term having the same variable with the same exponent. All right. So real quick, just some examples would be like 3x squared is the same, right, would be the like term of something that is like negative 7x squared. We could combine those. We could add them or subtract them or whatever they're going to want us to do. Remember, like terms only come in with adding, subtracting. Multiplying, we can multiply anything we want together. All right. The biggest thing that some kids make is they try to squish everything together. Like if up here, they would try to squish this all together and come up with one term. Well, we're welcome to algebra. We don't get into one terms anymore. This could be an answer. So be ready for that. So whatever you do, don't just start adding 3 plus 2 plus 1 plus 7 and tell me that is 13, right? And then x to the whatever. So we don't. Now, with like terms, we do not do anything with the exponents, all right? Don't do anything with, I forgot the word anything with exponents. So what that means is that if I have 3x squared plus 7x squared, I'm going to come up with 10x squared. This is called gathering, all right? So when I talk about gathering, so that's what so you got 3x squareds over here, and then all of a sudden 7x squareds show up. We have a total of 10x squareds. Do not do anything with the exponents. All right, so let's get into adding. The first problems here are adding. Now, most of the time they're always going to put them in parentheses. Please understand that if it's an addition sign in between the parentheses, then we can simply just ignore the parentheses. All right, just ignore them. And then what I always do is I always try to identify which one my like terms are. So again, standard form says take a scan of the exponents, right? So no exponent here, which is called a constant. W squared, W third, W squared, and another constant. So this looks like it's my first one, because that's my highest one. That's my standard form is my highest exponent. So this is my first one. So I put a line underneath it. And then I look for, so then W squared, so 3. Then the next one down would be the 2, right? And the next one down would be the 1, but there is no 1. And then the constant. So you notice that I have lines underneath here of each term. That helps me understand that this is going to be my first one. Then I'm going to gather these two or combine these two. And then I'm going to combine these 3. So my answer could have come up with 3 terms in them as long as no one falls out. All right, so W to the third, you take the sign that's in front of it. So this is plus W3, so that's positive W third. So we write that down. Now we go to this second term, W squared. So this is negative 2W squared plus 3W squared. So think of it like this, 3 minus 2, which is 1. So it's a positive 1. So we say plus W squared. We don't have a W term, so we don't have to worry about that. So we go to the constant, negative 5 minus 11. Think money. I borrow $5 from you. I borrow another $11 from you. I owe you 16. All right? That's your answer. It is unlike any answer you're used to, but that is your answer. Don't try to do anything else to it. All right? Okay, last one. Now we start adding, again, the problems just get longer and they just add more terms to it. So again, plus sign in between, so that means I get to ignore it, right? And you don't have to do that, just ignore it in your head. All right, now we take a quick scan of the exponents. So 3, 2, 3, 1, 2. Okay, so it looks like it's 3 is the highest. So that's gonna be my first one. And then I look for k squared. So here's a k squared and here's a k squared. And then I look for k's. And then I look for constants. All right, so 4 dashes means that there's probably going to be 4 terms here. So let's look at the first term. So I have 8k to the thirds, and I'm going to add 5 more. So 8 plus 5 is 13. K to the third. Notice I don't do anything with the exponent. K squareds, I owe you 4, but then I pay you 2, so that means I still owe you 2k squareds. Remember, I don't do anything with the exponents. The k's, so that would be here. So 3k minus a k, which would be positive 2k. And then 12 plus 15 is 27. So that would be my answer. All right. Notice that I don't try to squish it together. I don't do anything with it. I just leave it just like that. All right. Now, adding is pretty basic because you get to ignore the parentheses. What happens when we have subtraction? So when we have subtraction, what happens is that this is telling us that we are subtracting all of this. Every one of these terms we are subtracting from this. So this first one we didn't do anything with. So we're just going to drop this down. We're going to just get rid of the parentheses and we're just going to drop those terms down. With the subtraction sign means that I can do 2 things. I can distribute the minus sign through, which means that really I'm just multiplying by -1, which in reality is I'm just changing the signs, folks. I'm just really changing. So subtract 15, I'm going to say minus 15. Subtract 8, or the opposite of positive 8, is minus 8v. And then subtract the positive v squared, I'm going to subtract v squared. Notice that this was positive, positive, positive. Now all of these are negative because of this minus sign. So you either can distribute the minus sign through or you can just go in and change them. Now that we got rid of the parentheses, we have to look at the highest exponent, which is our v squared. So there's our v squared. Then we have v's, and then we have constants. So then we just start gathering them up. I owe you a v squared, but I borrow another one, so I owe you 2 v squareds. I have 7v, but I needed 8v, so I need to borrow 1v, so minus v. And then I had 14, but I needed 15, so I have to borrow 1 more. So that's minus 1. That's it. All right, notice I'm not trying to squish it. This is it. V squared, v, and then constant. Standard form. All right, last one. So again, the last one here, again, we're subtracting. So subtracting. So that means that the first part we can just write it down. Now, some of you will not write it down. You'll just leave it there. But then this one says, hey, I'm going to take the opposite of what I see here. Because again, I'm subtracting this. So when I subtract a negative, I'm adding a positive. I'm subtracting a negative. I'm adding a positive. I'm subtracting a negative. I'm adding a positive. Keep telling yourself that. Talk yourself through this. So now I'm looking for the highest exponent. That's my m squareds. And then my m's. And then my constants. All right? So m's, I have 2m squareds, but I gather 3 more. So that's 5m squareds. I owe you 8m and I pay you 8m, so my m's are good, right? I do not write anything down. These cancel each other out. Please do not make an ox, or in this case, an ohm, okay? 0m, 0 times m is 0. 0 times anything is 0. We just get rid of that. So if it can be reduced out, then it goes reduced out. Cancel each other out. And then 2 plus 7 is 9. So that's your answer. All right? Adding and subtracting. The biggest thing that you have to remember is that make sure that's in standard form and you gather like terms. Keep having fun with math.